The previous basket is under review.
Welcome back to Stats by Will and Jim. I am your host, Jim Root. We are the college basketball podcast that focuses on the numbers. As always, I'm joined by Will Warren, the statistical guru that just keeps us sharp on the numbers. Also, Willstradamus, as he is now becoming known because of his unbelievable forecasting of Tuesday games. So we're going to get a little more of that to end the episode here. We are proudly under the Basket Under Review umbrella. Please check out the site and the Discord if you have not already. Only $10 a month gets you access to the best college hoops community on the internet. Also, all kinds of written content. You get great stuff from Will. You get great stuff from Brian Ralph. You get Scout Team from Eric Fawcett and Kevin Sweeney. All kinds of other great information on there as well. So make sure to check it out. If you have already, tell a friend. We love college hoops, and we think you should too. So join Basket Under Review. All right, Will, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. We've got games to discuss, which means we've got numbers to go through. But first of all, how are you feeling? Are you settled back in for conference play after the holiday season?
Yeah, well, it's just nice to have some consistency in schedule. So it's a strange week, that first week or two of conference play, you're like getting settled in. It's kind of like people forget you can lose, and like that road games are hard. I don't know. We go through this every year, and we will, of course, when our last few undefeated teams bite the dust. But everybody is just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe, Florida, for example, lost at Mizzou." Okay, well, Florida won the title last year and lost at Georgia. Weird shit happens every year in conference play.
Yeah,
and it's just very entertaining to me. But I'm happy that we have this routine back, and I'm very happy that we had such a juicy Saturday in particular for narrative purposes, and Friday results too. Don't forget that. We had some really intriguing results after recording last week.
that we did. So I'm very curious what direction we will go in on our numbers here. We always try to avoid overlap, but you never know. If we've got a couple of numbers about the same teams that made big impact on college basketball over the last week, then hey, that's what we're going to end up discussing. But before we do, Will, we always start off with a trivia question, the stat of the day. And this one is player focused, and I will just start with the hint that there's no Tennessee nudge here. Okay. So you don't have to live in that world because typically I do put you on that track. No, well, all right, we'll find out. The question of the day: how many of the top 10 in the rankings of KenPom Player of the Year can you name right now? And I will say this. The question comes from numbers 8 through 10 being extremely difficult. I believe you'll probably be able to pull 1 through 7 at some level. 8 through 10 shocked me a little bit, so I thought it'd be fun to discuss and get your reaction on them.
Okay, 3 I know outright are Boozer, DeBanta, and Caleb Wilson.
Yep, they are numbers 1, 3, and 5.
Right, because I had to look this up. We had a discussion about freshmen, and I knew they were very high. Joshua Jefferson.
It's number 2. There we go.
Yaks.
Yaks is number 4. So you've quickly erased the top 5 here. Well done.
Well, it's all downhill from here.
6 and 7 are point guards. That's my hint.
Christian Anderson?
No Anderson. Actually, kind of surprising. I think that's a really good guess given I think he leads the country in points produced per CBB Analytics.
Okay, so no Christian Anderson.
You're missing the point guard.
Okay, so Braden Smith.
Braden Smith is 6, and I think you should say who you were about to say.
LeBaron Philon.
He is number 7. Boom. Well done. Okay.
All right, so now the real fun begins. I'm going to guess, because KenPom's numbers have been really high in the sky all year for whatever reason, Keyshawn Hall might be in this back 3.
No Keyshawn Hall, but I like the way you're thinking, kind of off the radar. Yep, those are good. I mean, if you get these, I will put on a hat so that I can tip it to you.
All right. Let me think. Let me just spam a couple off the top here. It's not Bennett Sturts. I feel like that would be obvious.
No Bennett Sturts.
Okay. Kingston Flemings.
He has been recently in this list, but he's not currently there, which surprised me. He does lead the country in KenPom game MVPs, So I'm surprised that he's not on this list, but a good
It's weird that
guess,
he
I
would
would
be on the
say.
list.
Yep. The only player in the country with 10 game MVPs, Kingston Fleming's. Bennett Sturt's among 4 players with 9. So you are still guessing very important players. Don't worry.
I'm trying to. So Braden Huff might be on this list.
Not Braden Huff, but there is well, I guess you'd expect maybe EK to be here, but there's a second player from Michigan that surprised me.
Okay,
He's not
Morez.
there. Morez Johnson is number
Okay.
8, which Illinois fans are screaming, "No way, that guy's bad." So, unfortunately, he's not bad. He's a very good player.
All right, I'm gonna take 2 more guesses here. And I don't think I'm gonna get close on these, but it's worth a shot. I'm gonna guess Momcilovic, and for some reason Vasar feels like he could be very high.
Ooh, we have one foreign big man, so you're close, and then a point guard. So no to both of those, but the correct answers, shockingly, one of them just had a monster week, which is a big part of it. Paulius Morauskas of St.
Oh,
Mary's,
okay.
sneaking in at number 9, and number 10 is partially because the rest of his backcourt has recently gotten injured, but Tyler Tanner of Vanderbilt. Also getting some NBA hype based on his recent play. He never turns the ball over. He had 14 assists and 1 turnover against South Carolina. That certainly helped boost him up the rankings, and he's shooting 43% from 3 and on a top 7 team. So surprised to see those names, but man, it tells you how good those guys have been. Morauskas is coming off a really incredible week. He had 30 and 15 against Seattle, a team that nearly beat Gonzaga. Also 24 and 7 and 5 against Portland. So he has been quickly ascending for the Gales. They're inside the top 30 at KenPom. Impressive stuff from guys that definitely were not on All-American radars to come entering this season.
No, not at all. Interesting.
Okay. I thought it was too. That's why I kept it simple with the trivia question, because I thought it'd be fun to ask that. Before we get into our little 7-stat rotation where we go back and forth talking about numbers that stood out to us, got to give a quick shout out to Home Field, which is the best place to get your college sports apparel for this hoop season. They've got all kinds of unique logos, including retro ones, on a multitude of amazingly comfortable gear, from sweatpants to hoodies to regular sweaters to t-shirts to hats to joggers, jackets, whatever it is you want. Make sure to hop on to homefieldapparel.com and use promo code BURNER15 for 15% off your first purchase. That tells them that you came from us. That's good. And it gets you money off. So that is also good. A great win-win situation here. That is Burner15 at homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right. It's time to get into our alternating discussion, starting with Will, of course. He is our leadoff man. So numbers that stood out to us over the last week. Will, what do you got?
I had a theme that I'm going for here.
Okay.
And it is teams that I do not believe we have devoted one of our 7 to yet this year.
Okay, good. I'm not quite. I have a mini theme in mind, but I like yours.
Yeah, and so part of this is memory. Part of this was Twitter searching from Basket Under Review and seeing if Trilly has mentioned these teams in there. Because again, I don't remember anything I say on this show after we finish recording.
Same. Yep.
My memory here, and I'm shocked to report this, is that we have not devoted a standalone piece yet to Louisville.
Oh, after we heaped love on them in the preseason.
Yeah, and I think it's just they've had some weird schedule quirks this year where like some of their biggest games have fallen on Tuesdays. So we really haven't had a chance to be like, oh, this happened. Or by the time we've recorded next, it's been a full week. You know, for example, the Kentucky one was a Tuesday. The Arkansas loss was a Wednesday. The Tennessee loss was a Tuesday. So we haven't really had a chance to talk about them much. But I wanted to bring this up in anticipation of their game that you will already know the result of against Duke tonight as we're recording this, because Mikal Brown Jr. will be out for this game, per Pat Kelsey. And I want to bring up something interesting I found while pouring through the data at Hoop Explorer. So in 2 steps here. Number 1, Louisville has played almost an equal amount of possessions this year with Mikal Brown Jr. on the court as they have without. 503 versus 509, which is surprising. Even more surprising, when you adjust for 3-point percentage variance, Louisville has actually been better with Mikal Brown Jr. off the floor. by about 2 points per 100. So a negligible difference. But I want to bring this up because I'm seeing a lot of reactions of, oh, Louisville isn't going to be good without him. They can't get to the paint as well. And the data does not back this assertion up. Without Mikal Brown Jr., 7% higher rim attempt rate, plus 17 rebounding margin per 100 versus plus 3 with him on the court. You just add a better rebounder when he's off. Turnover margin does get far worse, and they don't get to the line as often. But the same amount of shooters, more or less, are on the court. Their 2-point percentage plus 21% from 2 with Mikal Brown Jr. off the court versus plus 15 with him on. I bring this up because they're about to play Duke, and this Louisville team, I would not say has like a super signature win yet, because Kentucky looked like a signature win, and now we're not so sure. I don't know that we know how we feel about Indiana yet either. So Louisville, interesting team. I guess that's my point.
Well, yeah, because before the Stanford game, they were so good against Cal. They blew out Montana. It's like, all right, maybe not that they don't need Mikal Brown Jr. I still think the best version of them involves him, but it speaks to how incredible Ryan Conwell has been. I believe he snuck into Ken Palm's top 10 player of the year for a game before kind of having a dud at Stanford and falling back out. But he has been unbelievable, one of the best shooters in the Power Five, and giving them a little bit of playmaking to go with that. Frew has been awesome in the paint. They've got McNeely, they've got Hadley. Brown does a lot of really good things, but he can fall in love with deep jumpers. That's why he's shooting sub 27% from deep this year. And that does impact things. He's clearly the best passer on the team, gets downhill well. But yeah, the fact that they have not actually suffered that much with him off the floor, and that includes the 20-point blowout loss to Tennessee that he did not play in, and they're still not a noticeably different team without him on the court. I think that does say something that they need to figure out once he's back how to fully optimize him while maintaining some of that rebounding supremacy that they have when he's not on the floor.
Little Ewing theory for you here, possibly.
There we go. Well, hey, I was told very repeatedly in the preseason that the Weave is idiots for not ranking him in the top 20 players, and he's the best freshman point guard by far. I think we ranked Acuff ahead of him and got a lot of flack for that. I feel okay about that at this point. But yeah, I mean, they have a deep stable of guards, so the drop off isn't completely terrifying without him. But of course, like I said, he is the best passer. He is the best at getting downhill and getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line. So getting him back will still be the optimal version of Louisville, but it's not quite shown to this point.
Yeah, and with the loss to Stanford in mind, people are going to say, well, you can't say all this about them. They just lost to Stanford. And one, West Coast trips are hard. Two, Stanford 47% from 3 in that game, Louisville 22%. I think they're going to be just fine, especially when they outshot Stanford by 15% from 2.
Yep. Yeah, I think a couple of Louisville fans have said, hey, it just comes down to if we make threes or not. Like, yeah, when you lead the country in 3-point attempt rate, that really is the biggest.
Better come down to threes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm gonna go to the adversary in that game you just referenced, Duke versus Louisville, because over the last 3 games, Duke has allowed 1.17 points per possession combined against Texas Tech, and then Georgia Tech and Florida State, number 185 and number 96 offense. The Blue Devils have really started to struggle defensively. They gave up 45 in the first half to Lipscomb. Yes, they've had bad luck in ACC play from 3. Georgia Tech and Florida State shot 50% combined from deep, but they also shot 56% from 2. Those are 2 bad offenses. And if you just change the start parameters on Bart Torvik to December 1st, Will, Duke is 33rd in the country with this number 78 defense. This is a team that early in the year looked like it was completely suffocating on that end. They had size, they had versatility. Dame Sarr was eating people up. Now he's fallen a little bit out of the rotation. They're playing the double point guard lineup, so they're not quite as long. Malik Brown isn't playing that many minutes, so they don't get all the defensive boost from him. How worried are you about Duke? Because of late, it has not been the same team. And for them to be outside the top 30 since December 1st is somewhat alarming to me. And obviously, we've got this Duke Louisville result that you'll tell us the final score at the end of the show here. But I have my eyebrows up at Duke because they have not looked elite lately.
I think they need a loss. And it's a weird thing to say considering they already lost to Texas Tech. But sometimes you need one of those to really snap you back into place and help you figure some things out. I think Louisville is going to be well equipped to beat them just because of that drop coverage. Duke has been going under a lot of on ball and off ball screens lately, and it's led to a lot of 3-point attempts, which is fine in a vacuum. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Same Duke team that gave up a good amount of 3-point attempts last year. Nothing amazing, but more than the first 2 years of Shire and more than any year of Krzyzewski. But I would note that the way they're playing defense, the sunken in style, is leaving you open to variance a little more. So they still do a really good job of forcing bad twos. I mean, they're plus 18% this year in 2-point percentage, still dominant on the boards, still elite at not fouling. So I do think long-term Duke will be fine. But they are more open to an opponent getting hot from three this year than they have been in years past. Now, you flip this, if the opponent is, cold from three, they go 22% like Louisville did, then Duke can really run away from them because they still have a great offense. They're still pretty lethal in transition. If you let them get out and run on you, it's not going to be a fun night for you. But if you're able to get and make open threes, it could be a really fun night for you because this Duke team doesn't eliminate those shots like they used to.
Yeah, it's the perfect kind of like if you need the big Q1 win at home in the ACC, can you get hot against Duke because they give you a chance if you're able to knock down jumpers. And if I was just looking at it, if you filter Bart Torvik for Q1 and Q2 games, Duke does fall to 13th. It's not a catastrophic drop, but it's getting a little more questionable considering they have some real big wins at Michigan State's no joke. The Arkansas win away from home is no joke, but they kind of boosted a lot of those non-adjusted stats, some of the rebounding, the 2-point percentage against the inferior competition. If you change it to just Q3 teams, Q1, Q2, Q3, take out all the Q4s, Duke falls to 22nd. So I think there's a little something there that Duke hasn't quite found the right gear against top competition. Even like the Kansas game, the Arkansas game, they had great final 2 to 3 minutes, but the first 37, 38 were not quite what they were hoping. And I think we're seeing that play out a little bit. Duke shuffled the starting lineup recently, playing the 2-point guards together. Need to figure out if that's actually going to be the long-term answer or not, because it hasn't looked all that sharp recently.
No, and I think I feel like Shire's still tinkering. I think they're going to find something by year end, but the hope, I guess, a month and a half ago that this Duke team could somehow be on the same level or better as last year's Supernova team, it was perhaps misguided.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they can reach that level, not at all. Okay, well, back to you for your second stat.
Somehow we are staying in the ACC for the third straight team.
Oh, here we go.
There are 3 teams. So over last week, Ken Pom unveiled a new wonderful stat, average 2-point attempt distance. National median is about 6 feet. So, like I guess a long layup or a short floater or something like that. Or a hook shot, I don't care. There are 3 teams in the top 20 of offensive efficiency nationally that are 300th or lower in this 2-point distance stat. One is Purdue.
That's
the
the one I
second
would
one
have
is
gotten.
Vandy. Can you guess the third?
Well, you said it's an ACC team, so I'm going to see if I can come up with one there. Is it Virginia?
It is SMU.
Wow.
The Mustangs.
Boopy and the mid-range assassins. There we go.
Yes, their average 2-point attempt distance is almost 7 feet, so 311th in the nation. Just an amazing stat here from I can't stop laughing as I look at it. From Synergy, SMU is hitting 50% of their mid-range jumpers this year.
It's remarkable.
50%.
They've got Boopy and Jeron Pierre are both terrific at it. BJ Edwards is pretty solid. When I was trying to, I wrote up the SMU North Carolina game for the weekend watch list on Friday. It's like, well, yeah, UNC's entire defense is force long twos because they're huge, play deep drop coverage. Well, SMU can kind of knock those down, and lo and behold, they just torched an awesome North Carolina defense for 1.4 points per possession. And granted, they shot 52% from three, but they also shot 67% from two, which is not something North Carolina has allowed frequently this year. Racked up 23 assists to 7 turnovers, like a masterful offensive performance. And it all starts with Boopy, Edwards, and Pierre being able to knock down jumpers. I mean, that group combined went 15 for 20 from two. Your three guards are shooting 75% from two. That tells you a big deal about where they're able to get shots from and how they're able to be efficient on them. Yeah, SMU, I believe that was their first Q1 win since 2022. Was that stat you tweeted? I think that was you. Yeah, it's
not me, but
that
that is
you?
correct.
Okay. Yeah, just remarkable that that team has broken out of the Enfield zone for now and is actually among the top 31 nationally per KenPom.
They are shooting 30% off the dribble on threes, and 51% on off the dribble twos. They're the first team in a while where you're like, hey, actually fake that shot and go to 15 feet.
Yes.
It's fine.
It's better. It's actually analytically worth more to take the two.
Yeah, we actually want you to play like it's 2006.
Yes. Good. Hey, it's fun to have a mid-range assassin type squad. It's not just Bruce Thornton and Braden Smith out there knocking down pull-up twos. It is the entirety of the SMU roster.
But I like watching them because they are a little bit of a throwback in that way. They're fun offensively. They're entertaining. Can they shoot 50% of mid-range jumpers the whole season? I don't know about that. But, even without that, I think that they've got a really good offensive core to work with. Very good on the offensive boards, which I like to see. They are really good at turnover prevention. Basically, everything you'd like to see from one of these, ACC mid-packers that could rise a little bit is what SMU provides. They actually could break out of the infield zone this year just by sense of finishing top 40, which would be good.
Yep, they've got at Clemson, at Duke coming up, so plenty of opportunities to prove themselves, and then Virginia Tech, Virginia at home. So real opportunities for the Mustangs to keep the momentum going after that outstanding start to ACC play. I'll go with just following your footsteps on the average 2-point attempt distance. I was debating how much to lean on that stat just because it's new and we are stat boys. So of course we want to discuss it. Only have one number from it, but I think there's a lot of different directions to go with it. My number is 7.3 and 10th. That is Indiana's ranking in average 2-point attempt defense, which really goes to show you the Darian DeVries 2-point shell. I think that was something that propped up his 2-point defenses at Drake. It was really a major asset of why they were so good and limited teams defensively. And it's why this Indiana team coming into the year, we thought didn't have great personnel on that end, has actually been very respectable. They're 31st on defense nationally per KenPom right now. They are taking away the three, running you off the line, forcing you into that mid-range area. And yes, they're playing some drop, but they're not giving up rim attempts, and that matters. So they're forcing you to hit tough twos, and that's propping up the defense right now. 11th nationally in 2-point percentage defense, helping Indiana be actually really good defensively compared to what we thought they were. So a hat tip to the scheme that DeVries has going there, Will.
They're very entertaining to watch in a way on defense that I just didn't anticipate. It's not like a true Kalkbrenner drop or an Illinois drop, but they kind of give off like not like Dollar General, but like something better than Dollar General that's not like a Publix, something in that range of supermarket. Okay. That type of like Illinois / Creighton vibe, where I'm still not totally convinced the talent matches what I'm seeing on the court. And again, 29% from three, we'll see about that the rest of the year. But to do all this without a real rim protector is really nice to see. And it's just a fun, keep everything in front of you defense that works. And I mentioned this in the watch list this week. There's a really intriguing dynamic going on with Indiana University sports right now. I don't know if you've noticed this in line, where like because of the football run, and deservedly so, the fans are kind of like, it's that Gordon Ramsay meme of, oh dear, gorgeous versus you fucking donkey. And the basketball team is the donkey right now.
And despite being 11-3,
like, yeah, and I feel like take a step back, fellas. It's okay. They're good. Indiana basketball is good.
Good, and
I think they're going to wear home uniforms in the round of 64.
Yeah, they're good and they're more fun to watch than a Mike Woodson team. So that should at least give them some major bonus points right now. But hey, they're not undefeated in the number one team in the country. So comparatively,
Yeah.
not quite the same. But yeah, like you said, no one's making threes, but at least they're taking them away. So they're less exposed to a hot shooting night. And defensively, at least they have Connor Way as the head of the snake. He's such a demon on the ball that, hey, if you're playing drop, he's going to go over everything and harass you and get his hands on stuff if you're loose with it. And that has helped. So also number one in the country in D1 experience. So clearly a veteran core for Darian DeVries there.
Also, Lamar Wilkerson, not as bad defensively as I feared he would be. He's fine.
Yeah. Sam Houston, he had a large offensive burden, and he still has one, but he's been feisty on that, and he's long. He's got that going for him. All right, number 3, Will, back to you.
We're finally moving away from the ACC. I think for good. Oh no, I've got one at the end. Spoiler. But I was really interested by something our friend John Fendler put out the other day, which was using Hoop Explorer stats to determine a team's post/big involvement on offense. So the teams at the top are like, take a wild guess. Michigan, of course, is way up there. Do you know who at least prior to this weekend's games, dead last in the nation in post/big involvement was?
Alabama?
Baylor. Would you like to guess who Baylor just got?
James
a 7-foot post.
Yeah, there we go. See if they actually use him.
Yeah, so Baylor has the lowest post involvement in the nation. And I bring this up because they just got James Najee, which has been this big controversy that we didn't really touch on because it's not really our forte to do so in this pod. Najee comes in from, former second round NBA pick, right? 31st or something like that. All I know is that he was involved in the Karl Anthony Towns trade, which is hilarious.
Yes, yes it is.
That's a great historical footnote to have on your resume, to be playing in college, but you're in the cat trade. Najee was kind of a non-factor, I would charitably say, in Baylor's road loss to TCU over the weekend. And I don't think it was necessarily a horrible loss or anything for Baylor. I mean, TCU is kind of a hard place to play at. TCU is also not abject this year. They're fine. But I am intrigued to see what he represents going forward, because he really wasn't a factor in that game. And this Baylor team is not what you think of as a traditional 5-out. They're 4th nationally in offensive rebounding rate. They do actually get a lot of layups, but it's because of their super athletic backcourt. You have Cam Carr, you have Yesufu at small forward. Dan Skilling's actually pretty decent small ball 4. And frankly, I kind of like what I've seen more from Rataj or even Caden Powell than what I think Najee could provide this year at the 5. So Baylor really intrigues me long-term as this sort of 5-out that's not 5-out team. A really weird, collection of skills and skill sets that Scott Drew has put together, which is kind of what we thought in the preseason. We really didn't know what to expect from them one way or another. And I feel like we've actually gotten that result this year where they kind of smacked around San Diego State's defense and then a week later turned around and lost to Memphis. So I'm really interested to see what exactly Baylor is the rest of the way. And it starts now, because next 2 games, both at home, and it's Iowa State and Houston. And those are 2 teams that Baylor, especially Iowa State, I put this in the watch list this week. Since Otts got to ISU, did you know Baylor's 0-8 against the spread against Otts?
I think I remembered that from when it was like one of the 11 seed Iowa State teams or something, because they're so physical, and it always just did not translate well against, or Baylor's kind of guard-based attack did not translate well. I wouldn't have guessed 0-8, but I would have said they've had problems.
Yeah, but by the same token, I don't think they've beaten Houston. So at least I'm not recalling them beating Houston. I know they took them
Houston
to
hasn't
overtime.
lost many Big 12 games, so that makes sense.
Yeah. They took them to overtime once, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right. Sounds familiar.
It was like a CBS game.
February 24th of 2024. There you go.
Okay. Well, we'll see why I remember. Maybe I had to go to Home Depot or something. That's why. I got these weird, there's some of these games that like stick in the craw because it's like, I had to miss this because I had to go to do some sort of home goods thing. But anyway, I think that in a vacuum, it's not bad to lose to TCU, Iowa State, and Houston. But in reality, it's really bad to be 10-5, 0-3 Big 12 And then your 2 games following that are road Oklahoma State and road Kansas, neither of which are close to a gimme.
No, there's one team that's really hoping Baylor stays hot or gets really hot, and that's St. John's, because the Johnnies are hanging on to that, clinging to it as their top win. It's interesting to go back to your stat that they have such low post and big usage on offense. Like a decade ago when they had Jonathan Motley and Joe Lual-Achuil, like they were one of the highest post rates in the entire country. I remember writing about this with our old 3-man weave previews. Even like Torian Prince and Rico Gathers, they played through a lot inside. And now it's become such a guard-based offense, really, since at least like the national title team in 2020 was really heavy on perimeter influence, and that's just been growing and growing for their offensive style. But yeah, without a little bit more interior contributions, you could see kind of wild swings from night to night. And I think that's where they're hoping Najee comes in, and especially defensively too. They want to have more of an anchor on the glass and at the rim. But yeah, offensively, it's a guards game for them. They've got to spread things out, get downhill, knock down shots, and generally been able to do that. It's a top 12 offense for KenPom, but we'll see how it fares against Iowa State and Houston, 2 of the top 10 defenses in the entire country.
It's going to be an interesting fallout if he has little to no impact offensively after the freakout.
Yes, which I think is entirely reasonable. Like, I don't think he's known for his skill package on offense.
No.
All right, my number 3 thought. I'm going to keep it a little bit in theme with what I said about Indiana, which is defenses that are far better than we expected. And my number here is 1, and that is the number of times in the last 10 games that UConn has allowed a team to hit 1.0 points per possession or higher. Only Florida topped that number. They scored 1.08, and UConn was able to still win that game. This also includes 8 power conference teams: Illinois, Kansas, Texas, Butler. None of them topped 1.0 points per possession, and they're number 2 in the entire country defensively per KenPom now. This is not how we expected UConn. Actually, there are 3 after last night. When I did the research, they were 2. They're number 3 based on something that shifted. But still, top 3 on defense is not what anyone expected with UConn. There may be some regression lurking, especially defensively. Through 4 Big East games, their opponents are shooting 21.5% from 3. I still think it ticks up, but just the fact that they've gone 10 straight where only one team cracked 1 point per possession is a much higher defensive ceiling than I realized with them. They've got athletic wings, big wings, and the size at the paint, the size at the rim with Ryba and Reed has been really impressive. They're also kind of forcing turnovers. They're good on the glass. This team could win a title, maybe led by their defense, which is not something we expected coming into the year.
No, and I'm intrigued to see how this holds up, because in the Big East, it's not like it's a great offensive conference this year.
Correct.
So I guess thinking out loud here, Creighton sticks in the craws like the obvious team that has, cracked the UConn code from time to time. Who would be
Rick
second?
Pitino's had some success against Hurley in the past.
Actually, I'm going to give you one that's an oddball one here, and you can feel free to shoot it down. Could Providence possibly crack them a little?
Maybe. They've got the offensive weapons this year.
I think they would get shredded defensively, of course, but on the offensive side of the ball, I could actually see Providence having a pretty decent day against, especially because this week it's a home game on a Wednesday night, and the midweek home games I feel like have given UConn a little bit of trouble over the years.
Yeah, like that one's going to be, obviously Providence is riding very high after that comeback win at Madison Square Garden on Saturday. So I think the fan base is going to be bumping for that one. And yeah, they've got the shot makers to give UConn problems between Edwards, Vox, Sellers. Those guys can all knock him down. Corey Floyd gives them a little bit of complimentary playmaking and shooting. And Jameer Jones was excellent against St. John's going downhill. So UConn's got to be careful of that. But the fact that they are number 2 in effective field goal percentage allowed, and yes, some of it's the 3-point, but it's also how much they've been able to take away the rim, which is, again, a credit to Reed, credit to Ryba, and Jalen Stewart. He gets some blocks. Alex Caravan gets some blocks. This team is top 5 nationally in block rate because of the overall athleticism there. I didn't expect it. And if they're going to be this good defensively, they are a true national title contender and the clear cream of the crop in the Big East, no matter what happens at Providence on Wednesday.
They're up to well, maybe not up, but they're up to 3% for 20-0 at Ken Pom.
Okay. All right. Hey,
That's not nothing.
It's not nothing at all. Okay, back to you, Will. Number 4 in your stats.
Bit of a downer. I'm gonna say a number, and it's 80, and I want to tell you what 80 represents.
Okay, 80 represents blank.
Come on, not even a guess.
Well, there's so many different directions I could go. It's somebody's ranking in a.
That's why I'm trying to get you off balance. It's like
Okay.
I'm running the route at the line, and if you're cooked, it's over.
I feel cooked.
Yeah, it's slant and go. You bet hard. Number 80. This is USC's ranking at Torvik since the day Rodney Rice went out for the season.
Okay, this adds up.
80th. Are we sure they're going to make the tournament?
I'm not. I'm definitely.
I'm not either. So
if they're going to be starting Ryan Cornish in Big Ten games, I'm very skeptical.
So since the day he went out, 80th USC, they are 109th in offense, 79th in defense. The only thing that they rate out in the top 130 of, period, at Torvik right now, over the last month and a half, is offensive free throw rate, 49.1 attempts per 100 field goal attempts, and 65th in three-point percentage defense, which I think we're going to agree will probably not last much longer. With him off the court, your usage leaders here are Chad Baker-Mazara, who, without Rice this year per Hoop Explorer, 32% usage rate for CBM. 32.
Yikes. And he came off the bench last night for Musselman and had 4 points. So who knows what's going on there.
Your number 2 guy is Ezra Osar. And I'd like for you to guess number 3 in usage because it is astonishing.
Is it Jaden Brownell?
It is Jaden Brownell.
Oh, God.
That is your number 3 usage guy since Rice went out. I would, perhaps consider shifting some of that to one Jordan Marsh, who's not terrible, not great, but not terrible, or Jacob Kofi, who I don't mind. But this is an offense that, when just looking at the data, seems, out of ideas. The guard involvement is putrid. I mean, without Rice there, and it's not like this was a very heavy kick, a drive and kick based offense to begin with. 4.7 per 100 attack and kick actions per Hoop Explorer. Dead last in the nation by some distance. A lot of post-ups, a lot of pull-up dribble jumpers, very little transition play. There's just not much that happens, very high turnover rate predictably because of this. Not much is happening with this offense, and I don't really know how you fix it because right now it seems to be oriented around CBM save us, Jordan Marsh try and save us, Ezra Osar try and go and get fouled. But Osar is not a good enough free throw shooter to make that really work long term. And they don't really seem to have anything in the way of like a perimeter sniper that can help them out. I guess Brownell is kind of that in theory. He's not a bad shooter, but not a great one. CBM has actually been really good. I do want to state that. I think that he's been excellent, but he can't do it alone. And so this USC team is in a really intriguing spot where, you can give them a little bit of a mulligan because they don't have Elijah Arenas and they obviously don't have Rodney Rice. But by the same token, you and I both said going into this year, we didn't trust this USC build offensively. And the defense is quite a bit behind what I personally expected.
Yeah, losing Dickerson for the year or for a long, long time too, I think really hurt the defense. So that was what I thought they were going to have to and be able to lean on. And that hasn't really been the case at all. To your point, as good as Baker-Mazara has been, he's not the drive and kick starter. Like, he is driving to score. He's driving to step back to get a shot off.
He's driving to drive.
Yes, there's
he's Ryan Gosling out there.
Very little of their offensive pieces are guys that actively make their teammates better. That's, I think, your point about Marsh matters because he can pass and actually get into gaps and kick out. Isn't going to be just score first all the time. So playing him a little more. And then, I am watching very closely on how healthy Elijah Arenas looks whenever he gets back, which I think is ostensibly going to be soon. Can he give them another downhill creator, a guy that is willing to kick out and set up some of his teammates? Because it's a little too ISO heavy right now. And yeah, it's just a lot of Osar go get fouled, who he does get fouled quite a bit. But yeah, they look a little limited. And as I mentioned, Baker Mazzara came off the bench. So in 2 games in Michigan, he played 41 combined minutes, only had 16 points. There's very obviously a potential for that friction to come up between him and Musselman because both loud personalities. And I don't know if that's more opponent influence because they lost those 2 games by a combined 59 points. That's a really tough road trip, but I want to see if they can get Baker Mazzara back up to that 35-minute a game shot making extraordinaire. Otherwise, this offense is going to struggle badly.
So at Torvik right now, they actually project in the first 4 based on his season-long numbers. That does kind of feel right for if they do make it, that they'd be a Dayton team. One thing I will say for them is that they have a couple of I don't golf. I Googled this really quick. Putt likelihood by distance.
Okay.
Do you golf at all?
No, I'm not a golfer.
Okay, good. So I'm just thinking of mini golf here then. They have a couple of, we'll say, like 6-foot putts coming up. Like ones you should make, but you don't always. Road Minnesota, home Maryland. If you can sink those putts, just get through them. It doesn't matter how or by how many. You will be 14-3 and 3-3 in the Big Ten. That is not bad, I will say. That's like, for wins above bubble purposes, that's you can live with that.
Yeah, it's tenable. Illinois State's going to age like a solid win. I think the way they're playing in the MVC, Seton Hall on the neutral is going to age pretty well.
Age amazingly well.
So
Troy is aging quite well, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got a chance, but as you mentioned, they got to knock down those putts. And that at Minnesota one, it's the third of a road game in a week at Michigan State, at Minnesota, where they're out, not away, or they are away from home. Can they focus up after losing 2 games by a combined 60? That is going to be a very, very telling sign about whether the season is going to spiral or stabilize. So keep an eye on that game on Friday for sure.
Minnesota also secretly pretty good over the last month and a half.
Especially at home. We'll see what they do against Iowa tonight as we're recording. Last night, for those listening, will tell you the case. We'll tell you the score at the end of the show. All right, I'm going to stay on the positive end here too. A couple teams that I don't know how much we've discussed on here. I will start with 15th, and I got to double check that this stayed the same ranking overnight. But as of yesterday, this was UCF's ranking in wins above bubble. Oh, they're up to 14th. 14th in the entire country in wins above bubble per Bart Torvik. How about it, Johnny Dawkins? Definitely not what we expected from this team. I mean, they're sandwiched between Houston, Michigan State, North Carolina in wins above bubble. All teams we expected to be really good this year, but UCF has risen up in there. They're coming off a court storm against Kansas. That's obviously very exciting. They've got a tough follow-up to that by traveling to Oklahoma State tonight on Tuesday. That one I'm going to be really interested to see if UCF can remain focused and follow up and back up that Kansas win with a win there. I'd be really impressed. But I got 2 questions here. How sustainable is it, Will? They don't do anything like unbelievably special. It's just kind of a lot of solid. And should Milwaukee have been better last year with Themis Fulks and Jamichael Stillwell, arguably the 2 best players on this team? They were barely a top 150 team, and Johnny Dawkins has this team in the top 50.
Well, I mean, a change of scenery can really help. But I do think with UCF, well, one, it was pretty crazy, and this isn't even part of Willstradamus. It was pretty crazy that both Oklahoma State and UCF top 90 in regulation. That was a really fun game. We'll leave the winner up to the imagination.
Okay.
They have been fortunate in the sense that in their 4 top 100 games, they've shot 43% from 3. But you take the shots in front of you, and against Kansas, it wasn't like they shot beautifully. They were 7-23 from deep and still won. I'm really just like impressed that this team is so good at offensive rebounding. I guess I could have seen it coming a little bit with John Bull, but like Jamichael Stillwell is unstoppable on the boards. It's just like, I'm really impressed by him. I also have to say I have massive respect for one Jordan Burks. who wears 99. Just such a, like, any number above like 50 by somebody beneath about like 7'4", I really like. I feel like there's like a range here where like 40 to, it's kind of like offensive lineman numbers, 50 to 69. And I'm not saying this in a mean way, is the oaf number. Like, I need 50 to 69 needs to be like a 7'3" Eastern European number. But like last night, Jalen Counter was wearing 82 for Charleston. Great. Jordan Burks, 99, the Gretzky number for UCF. Great. Keep it coming. I love these numbers.
I couldn't disagree
really
harder. I couldn't disagree. I hate it. I hate it so much.
See, I feel that way about 0. I don't like the number 0. And I understand Russell Westbrook and all that, but I've never, it irked me this year when Jahmyr Gibbs went from 26 to 0, because there went my plans to buy a Gibbs jersey that was 26. And then I was like, well, I'm not buying the Fanatics number. And 2, I do like the new number variety, but there's a little bit of utter woke nonsense to it in the football aspect. I don't like that BYU's quarterback wore 47 this year. That's embarrassing. That's a 6'2", 260-pound running back.
Yeah, can't be a QB in the 40s. I think I tweeted about it watching a BYU game. I'm on board with you there.
And anyway, UCF's defense is still bad, but hot take here, spin zone. Will that matter that much in this year's Big 12 if you can simply score a lot of points? Because I don't believe, outside of, I guess, Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, that there's necessarily elite defenses left on the schedule, because they already beat and played Kansas. That was fine. Cincinnati has proven beatable. Their offense is beatable as is, but even their defense has gotten got by better opponents. And I don't know who would be left. Are you jazzed about TCU's defense necessarily?
No, sir, I am not.
So, it's totally plausible to me. And right now at Torvik, they're projected to finish 20-10, 9-9 in the Big 12. They do that, they're getting in the tournament. I don't think that would be a question. So, even with a hair of regression, if they're like 8-10 in the Big 12, they'll be fine. It's going to be fun to see tournament UCF, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, would be wild. I don't think we've seen it since Taco Fall. They're double opponents in the Big 12: Oklahoma State, West Virginia. That's beatable. It's not like they're getting a completely unstoppable schedule when this league is so top heavy. They only get Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Texas Tech, BYU all only once. So that really helps. See if they can pick up a couple of wins in those. I just want to mention John Bull. You mentioned he's been really good, incredible on the offensive glass, shooting 77% from the field. Also, if you have a chance, watch him shoot a free throw. It is an adventure. It is fully side spin. Like he's breaking it left in the air. He's playing the wind. It's a draw for the golf.
It's like a cricket throw.
Yeah, I don't actually know how to process it. I don't understand how it works. He's shooting 67%.
Quick prediction before mine. By 2030, we will see a softball free throw. Like the full wind-up toss.
One-handed. Wow, okay. I like it.
It sounds insane, but we have seen so many absurd free throw wind-ups in the last 10 years alone that I can't doubt shooting coaches across America coming up with something so stupid that we'll see it.
Just try anything. For the guys shooting 40% from the line, try anything. All right, back to you, Will, for your 5th number.
This is number 4. And so this is against top 300 teams in America. Your defensive rankings. Number 1, Michigan. Shocker. Number 2, UConn. Number 3, Michigan State. Any guess who number 4 might be?
Ooh, boy. I have them on my list, so I'm just going to guess a potential team here. Villanova? Seton Hall?
The Northern Iowa Wildcats.
Ooh.
Number 4 in defensive efficiency.
Wow,
they are really...
I know no one's making threes against them, which has helped.
That's part of the point. They're giving up a 24.5% hit rate from 3, which, I don't know about all that. But I did dive into the numbers a little deeper because we're going to have an article up, hopefully tomorrow, if my work allows, at Baskin and Review about Northern Iowa's defense. The difficulty of 3 they give up is quite high. They have one of the 30 lowest assist rates on threes in the nation this year. but 12th highest in attempts at the rim. So they give up a lot of like backdoor cuts and stuff, but it's like pack line principles without being a true pack line. They recover very well. They stay in front very well. Possessions are long and fruitless. It's very like when you think of like not unathletic, but go with it. That type of like mid-major MVC defense, like 2017-18 Loyola vibes. That type of like pack it in, suck it up. You're gonna be really annoyed by having to play us, and you're gonna have to hope you get over 60 points because we sure aren't. That type of experience watching the game, that is Northern Iowa basketball. And I was bored by them, and they meet all of my toilet ball metrics pretty well. They can't shoot, they don't rebound, they don't get free throws. They have scored over 75 points 0 times this year against a D1 opponent. They did score 99. They scored 85 on Cal State Northridge. I think those guys should perhaps take a look in the mirror and figure out how that happened.
Yes.
That's embarrassing. They got to 75 on Oakland. I was unaware you could only score 75 on Oakland. It took them overtime to get to 70 against UC Irvine and 69 against Wichita. That is the type of team we're dealing with. But they are 12-3 and 4-0 in the MVC because nobody can score on them either. Their highest amount surrendered this year is 74 in OT to Wichita, which I believe 63 all at regulation's end. Only gave up 63 to a pretty good St. Mary's offense. So far in MVC play, 54, 48, 66, 48. What it reminds me of is a more extreme version of Drake last year, and perhaps a more extreme version of Northern Iowa from 15 years ago, if you may recall, the 9 seed that made the Sweet 16 and upset Kansas. I like this team a lot because say they can make it to March as, like a 12 seed, we'll guess. They do profile as the type of team that is the 12 seed nobody really wants to pick or enjoys picking, but picks because it's the right thing to do, and it ends up working out. I feel like that's going to be the Northern Iowa experience this year.
Yeah, it's not the cute, fun 12 seed offense that you want to see lighted up like the high point, but they're going to turn the game into absolute muckland against a better team.
I can't believe I missed this pick in the first place. 2015-16 Northern Iowa was this team.
I can't remember who was on that one.
The Paul Jesperson beat Texas on the buzzer beater team.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They were not fun to watch. They didn't score. But they were a monumental historical collapse away from making the Sweet 16.
Yeah. I mean, gosh. This year's team, you mentioned no one's making shots. Their opponents are shooting 16% from 3 in 4 MVC games. 16. So that is certainly propping things up a little bit there. But a 4-0 start is a 4-0 start. They competed with St. Mary's on the road, which is really, really hard to do. St. Mary's blows out good mid-major teams at home all the time. So I was impressed with that. They're athletic. They block a decent amount of shots for a team that doesn't have a true shot blocker. Nobody on the team has a block rate higher than 4.4%. But Bond, Schwieger, Smith, Juf, Hornseth all get their hands on enough, make it difficult. The length, the discipline, the scheme that they play in. Jacobson's always been a great defensive coach, and it's showing up in spades this year because the offensive work has not shown up, but man, they can guard you. I'm going to keep it in the MVC, Will, unless you have something to add on Northern Iowa.
No, I'm excited. I can't believe we're going to get 2 MVCs on this pod.
Yeah, this is for all you Arch Madness fans out there. My number is 87, and that is how many more threes Murray State has made than their opponents this year. That's 9 ahead of Alabama for the most in the entire country. Murray State leads the country in 3-point defense attempt rate. They do not let you get shots off. They're long, they're switchable. They don't have to help off of shooters because of the length that they have. So you can't get threes off. They've taken 200 more 3-pointers than their opponents. That's also the biggest differential in the entire country. This team is fun. I don't know if they profile quite as well for an upset in March Madness as Northern Iowa because they play fast, and that's going to let talent gap kind of play out a little bit. They're not great on the defensive boards, could get beat up there. But they also have that benefit of taking way more threes, which increases variance on their end. If we get a bunch of shots up, knock down a bunch against a better team, and don't let them get threes off, there's a chance that Murray State could get out to a win in the NCAA tournament. They're also undefeated in the Valley so far. Wins at UIC. They beat Bradley at home, one at Valpo. The talent was always clear. Like Ryan Miller did such a good job in the portal, bringing in talent from Creighton and from other places. They went abroad to get Roman Doman, a fantastic French player. But it's actually coming together on the court, I think, better than many expected, given that he had no head coaching experience.
I like it. That's a good shout. I think Murray State would be the watchability pick in this league, them or Belmont. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I guess Illinois State a little bit too. They're pretty fun. Northern Iowa is for sure like the, like the March mercenary. I can't believe I missed this one too. South Florida. You remember when they won a tournament game?
Oh, the Dominique
Nobody
Jones?
remembers that, but they did it because they sucked to watch, but they did it. Now Murray State, much more entertaining team, and definitely, I was a little less sold on them preseason than most, and now I kind of wonder if there's been like a little bit of a market overcorrection on them in a way, because I think people maybe have forgotten about them almost since they lost the first two of their whatever their preseason tournament was to Middle Tennessee and McNeese. But since then, 9 straight wins. They won that beauty over Akron 115-100. Just demolished Bradley at the weekend. They have the huge math edge in an average game. The misfortune for them, and I know it's the MVC, so trip ups can happen anytime, but they're not really going to play another like MVC figurehead, I would call them, until January 24th when they play at UNI. And that will start a 3-game stretch that's very important to their MVC hopes. They'll go at UNI, home Illinois State, at Belmont. If you can find a way to go 2-1 in those somehow, you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. I like that you brought up the watchability because, yes, them, Illinois State, Belmont, all very fun. That definitely means Northern Iowa's winning Arch Madness and giving us the rock fight MVC team in the NCAA tournament. Arch Madness, always a very low scoring event in St. Louis. Could see them just being more comfortable in rock fights. But Murray State, man, the talent they've got there. Fred King's been sensational after backing up Kalkbrenner for years at Creighton. Javon Jackson has been unbelievable as their high usage lead guard. Way better than expected after he left UIC. So it's all come together for them. They've got size, got length, they've got shooting. The defensive scheme takes away the 3, but did they actually get over the hump come Arch Madness? We'll see. Highly recommend tuning in, though, especially for those Illinois State and Belmont games in late January. Should be up and down, fun, offensive track meets.
You're telling people don't watch Northern Iowa. You're telling people.
Unfortunately, I'm not going too hard on leaning in on that.
They should put them on Midco Sports. Put them on Midco Sports.
Yeah. Join the Summit League in their whatever
they're
streaming
on gas station
hell.
TV.
Yes. Okay, we've each got 2 left, I believe, here, Will. So you can go through number 6.
I'm staying in the mid-major Midwest. We have not somehow talked about Miami of Ohio. Miami, not that Miami.
They just beat Akron, so they deserve it. Yeah.
15-0. So let's dive in. Miami of Ohio, 9th in effective field goal percentage. They're shooting 40% from 3, 58% from 2, 80% from the line. Historically really strong numbers. The 2-point percentage is legit. They are in the top 50 nationally of average 2-point attempt distance. Travis Steele was not really known for having this type of offense until a couple of years ago when they made the assistant hire I referred to last week, their offensive coordinator of sorts. Things are much improved there. Defensively, it's not elite by any stretch. I still don't really rate anything they've got going on the interior defensive side, but they do a really good job of securing defensive rebounds. I thought they had a few really key ones down the stretch of that Akron game where Akron was really going for it on the boards, and Miami of Ohio simply shut them down. Pretty good 2-way turnover margin. I bring them up for 2 reasons. One, they're 15-0. That's an obvious one. And while their odds of going undefeated are not that high, it's only about 1% at KenPom. They are technically favored in the remainder of their games. So that is one thing. 2, I think we should talk resume because they do not have anything resembling a marquee win. Akron is the closest. They have 2 Tier B wins at Ken Palm, which is not nothing. That's his version of Quad 2. Those are the only Tier A or B games on the entire schedule. So we have that in mind. But we are in the wins above bubble era. Miami of Ohio currently ranks 28th in wins above bubble, ahead of teams like Virginia, Iowa, LSU, Auburn, ahead of Tennessee, well ahead of Kentucky and St. John's. It is not absurd to me that in an era where, like, I think it's totally fine to have, our metrics evaluation of this team and we can, bet on them or against them in that realm. But if we do have to keep having the AP poll, it should at some point be the resume poll. What exactly would be wrong with having Miami of Ohio in your top 25, given that?
I think I saw them get a couple of votes. I thought maybe.
I definitely just think that they should be getting more votes than USC.
Yes, that I would agree with. I had a buddy that lives in Ohio text me yesterday. Will, should I drive an hour to see Miami? Are they worth?
Yes.
Like, is that? And I think they are. Yes, they've played the number 353 overall schedule nationally. They don't have to go to Akron, which I think matters a lot. I'm curious, Will, what would they have to do overall record wise, given the fact that their schedule is not going to be good? They're going to have no quad one wins for sure to get an at-large bid. Would it be like if they go 28-2 in the regular season and lose in the conference title game? Is that enough?
I ran the numbers on this, and that appears to be the exact scenario that would get them in the first 4. So 28-2, which would then convert to 30-3. That would likely be enough to get them over the line. But that's a hypothetical, and we know that, unfortunately, the NCAA selection committee does not exactly treat these teams the way you or I would. So I kind of think, as crazy as this sounds, they might have to be 29-1 to be safe.
That is a high goal, considering that the MAC is chaos. But hey, they're halfway through it. They're halfway to it.
29-1.
14-1. Yeah.
They
15-0
do
so
also.
far.
They're going to be a really interesting historical outlier too, because the only other team in the last 15 years that would project to have, like, let's just say for the sake of arguing, 2 or fewer losses, or really even 3 or fewer losses, that was ranked this low in KenPom, was that 2019-20 Stephen F. Austin team that was 28-3. But they had the signature win over Duke, but they also played nobody else and beat nobody else. Like, they lost at Rutgers, they lost at Alabama, they lost a home game to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. They were 100th, but that year I remember there being a discussion. That was the first I'd ever really thought about wins above bubble, because they were something like +2. They were well ahead of several teams that were going to get in with ease. And so if you run that same scenario back today, I wonder what Stephen F. Austin's at-large case would have looked like. And so I kind of wonder the same for Miami.
Yeah, we didn't get to have that debate because obviously COVID canceled that tournament. Stephen F. Austin never even played the Southland tournament, so we don't know if they would have needed the debate. But yeah, Miami trying to make the bid for a 2-bid MAC. How about that? That would be shocking.
Yeah,
we'll see. The fact that they're undefeated already, or undefeated thus far, even against the bad schedule, is obviously impressive based on where they stand in wins above bubble.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go back to Power Conference hoops here, Will, and it's kind of to praise a team, but I'm specifically zeroing in on a player. And negative 16.2 is the number, and that is the change in defensive rating when Duke Brennan is on the floor for Villanova. He is a monster defensively. I know he's not a big-time shot blocker, but he's perfect verticality. He doesn't get in foul trouble very often. He stays on the floor. He's great in rotation. He's where he needs to be, just rock solid. Like the epitome of what this Villanova team is solid, making the right play. That's Duke Brennan. He's obviously been great on the offensive glass too. But man, when he's on the court, opponents shoot 50.5% at the rim. When he's off, that goes up to 63%. He is a major, major differentiator for their defense. The fact that they are now, like, seemingly clearly the second best team in the Big East, given all their results and where they now stand in KenPom. Really impressive stuff from both Brennan and Kevin Willard on the sideline. And of course, there's other pieces to praise on this roster, but I'm specifically giving Brennan some love because I think I was a little skeptical of him as a Big East big man in the preseason, and he has shut me right up because, man, he's been fantastic for a team that has wildly exceeded expectations.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you could argue that they're still due some better results. We had mentioned for weeks how bad their opponent 3-point percentage was and how unlucky that had been. And now suddenly it started to reverse a little bit, and 12-2, 3-0 Big East, and dare I say it, pretty clearly the front runner for second best in the league right now, given St. John's struggles. Now,
Yep.
I'm going to leave open the concept that St. John's figures it out and, you know, wiggles their way into 14-6 or whatever in the Big East, which I don't think is outlandish. But Villanova is really cruising right along. I mean, they're only underdogs in 3 more games, UConn both, and then St. John's on the road. This is a team that is really sound defensively. Well, I think that we had perhaps forgotten, just based off of, like, I don't know if we had or hadn't, but based off all of the fervor over his departure, just how good of a defensive coach Kevin Willard is. Offensively, I've never really been convinced. I kind of thought last year's was more of a product of a confluence of talent, we'll say, rather than anything new that had developed. But this year's team just seems, it's all like spare parts, but they're spare parts that work. It's like maybe it makes sense that a sort of misfit head coach would have this island of misfit toys that actually really functions well as a team. I don't know. They're way more entertaining to watch than I ever would have guessed.
Same. They don't play fast, but they play so smart. Like, they move the ball, the extra pass, the off-ball movement. Like, it looks like a team that knows what it's doing, knows its identity, isn't trying to play outside of itself and try to create off the bounce way too frequently. And I know Caden Lewis can do that. Askew can do it a little bit, but they move the ball, they get good shots, and they just are great with Brennan inside. So I have been super, super impressed with what Villanova has done so far, and just had to, I think this is another team we haven't given any love to yet on this show this year. So I wanted to express some respect because they just took care of Butler on the road and off to a 3-0 start in the Big East.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
It's
last
a fun
one,
team.
Will.
I like them.
Yeah. Respect to Villanova. It's hard to say it's a fun team. I like them about a Big East team this year, but we're going to do that for the Wildcats.
Yeah, we have to give respect where respect is due.
Yep. All right, your final number, Will.
All right, this one is plus 183, and this team is 7th in the nation in combined rebound and turnover differential. And I honestly never would have guessed this because the other top 10 teams here are not a surprise. They are Gonzaga, Arizona, Iowa State, Florida, Tennessee, Michigan State, Duke, Michigan, Purdue. None of those are unusual or surprising. Miami, Florida. Yes, Miami,
Ooh.
yes, that Miami at
Wow.
7th nationally.
Double Miami
good.
from Will today. Look at this.
A double Miami. You usually only get that. I don't know. We'll let James Harden figure that one out. But Miami, Florida, are we perhaps underselling them a little bit? Are people aware at how good they might be? Because the only 2 losses are to Florida and BYU, both completely understandable. They don't have a good win yet. The best one is probably road Ole Miss. And I think we're going to find out more against them in the next 4 games. None of these are amazing opponents, but like at Wake, at Notre Dame, at Clemson, all in the next 4, those are troublesome tasks. If you can pick off one of those, you'll be pretty happy. If you pick off 2, you'll be thrilled. But Malik Reneau has been really darn good for them. Trey Donaldson, just another year of him being consistently solid. Like, he's never going to be a star, but I like him quite a bit. Shelton Henderson has been pretty nice as a freshman. We haven't talked about them much because they haven't had a chance to talk about them. They just haven't played a ton of like marquee games on marquee nights where nothing else is on, but plus 14% from 2, plus 12 rebound margin per 100, plus 4 turnover margin. They do all the right things. They sustain their play quite well across the board. And most importantly, for their tournament purposes, they don't play Duke. They play Louisville once, and it's the final game of the year at home.
It's a completely absurd schedule. They don't do the West Coast trip. They don't play North Carolina, Virginia, Louisville, Duke until February 10th. And they, as you mentioned, not Duke. They don't play Duke at all. It sets up very well for a first-year coach in Jai Lucas. And hey, to his credit, they've been really, really good so far. Sorry, not to cut you off, but just like the schedule thing is crazy for them.
No, that's all I really had on them. I want to see if they can keep this huge shot volume edge up against better competition, because it's obviously one thing to do it against an FIU or a Southern Miss. It's something entirely different to do it against Clemson or Wake. But if you can sustain it there, I don't think it's outlandish. One, to start thinking about Miami, and we love this term, as potentially wearing home uniforms in the round of 64. And two, potentially starting to think about Miami as a sneaky contender for third best in the ACC. We don't have them on that tier yet. I think we've got Virginia and UNC and possibly SMU is a little clear, but they can potentially get there.
Yeah, you mentioned, can they hold that shot volume against better teams? They took 10 more shots than Florida, another team that's in this top 10 that you're talking about, and they took 11 more shots than BYU. So they were able to sustain that shot volume advantage against the two top teams they played. Yes, they lost both those games, but man, that's good mathematical projection going forward if they can maintain that kind of excellence there. They don't have a ton of depth, but that top five, that starting lineup is really, really solid and all complements each other well with some shooting, some physicality, a lot of defense. We talked coming into the year about the roster build and how the defense made sense. And I don't think we've ever mentioned it, and it's not, kind of outside the realm of our show, but they've got a positive off the court thing going too, where Marcus Allen got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, former Mizzou Tiger, so near and dear to my heart. I'm sure that is at least a nice motivator too, as well, with him battling that on the sideline. Miami is better than I expected, and I even thought the roster had a chance to be good. But I want to see it against good teams, and they just don't play good teams for quite a while. So we'll see how February and March look for them, because that will be the true telling time for the Hurricanes.
How about the two Miamis and their schedules this year?
Not a lot of stiff tests for either one. But hey, at least Miami, Florida isn't hiding behind 3 non-D1 games the way that Miami, Ohio is. Okay, one of those opponents that you mentioned, the good teams that they played, is BYU, and that is actually the team I'm going with on my last number here, just because this is a fun stat I found while digging into the depths of CBB analytics. BYU leads the country, Will, in steals and blocks per personal foul. So the site calls it personal foul efficiency, but 1.02 steals and blocks per personal foul. Just telling that BYU never fouls. They are 11th in the country in defensive free throw rate, but they still are able to create events defensively. And part of this is because Rob Wright and AJ Debinsa never foul at all. This has always been a part of the AJ Debinsa, he did this in a whole game. He went 6 straight games without a single foul while playing big minutes. But the fact that they're still able to rank top 50 in block rate, top 25 in steal rate, that's really impressive for a team that's not getting their hands all over you. It's a credit to Will Voigt's their defensive coordinator. I interviewed him for an article this offseason. The fact that they've been able to build this defensively, again, like UConn, like Indiana, this was the skepticism coming into the year. Can this team get enough stops to go with what we think will be a very potent offense? They're top 20 in adjusted defense right now because they're able to not foul and still bother you defensively. I got to give them credit. Well, I didn't see this coming with BYU at all. A top 20 defense.
I like them. It's fun. And I think that having this sort of mindset they've got, with Kevin Young as head coach, they've done a good job at forcing some tougher twos, not fouling much. It just seems incredibly sound across the board. And, for all the mini panic we've had at times this year, especially the first half of the Clemson game, they've won 10 in a row. Now, they haven't played a ton of great opponents, but they've won 10 in a row. And that's the point. And I'm excited. It's kind of a bummer, the start to their schedule for Big 12 play, because we're not going to see them play one of the other marquee 6 teams until January 17th. But starting then, you'll have Texas Tech, you'll have Arizona on the 26th. We're going to get to see the tests coming, and we'll get to see, can they sustain these defensive gains against better teams?
Yep, and it's going to be a big test. But yeah, they are currently 10th in the country in wins above bubble. So despite not having the elite top of the line victory, the Villanova win has aged very well. Miami, Florida win could age pretty well. At Kansas State, we'll see. Clemson, we'll see. Dayton, Wisconsin, who knows? But they've beaten some solid teams and have the upside to do even more in the Big 12. So credit to them for figuring things out a little more defensively than we expected coming into the year. All right, let's wrap this up with a little Willstradamus. We did get Will telling us that It's going to be a high-scoring affair between UCF and Oklahoma State. So you heard that here first, folks. But Duke, Louisville, did you tell me what's happening there, Will?
I've got Louisville by 7. I think this is another little marquee home win for them. Kind of a little Ewing theory without Mr. Brown available. I have, in the rest of these games, I got St. John's by 2 on the road. They're going to right the ship a little bit. This Butler team kind of seems like, not like they're spiraling, but it kind of seems like they can't get out of their own way a little bit. And so
Yep.
I feel like we've got another crushing home defeat coming their way.
I like that result too, because it's a St. John's win, but it's not enough for people to be like, St. John's is back.
Yeah, they're just like,
storyline.
Poor Butler. That's kind of that's going to be like the feeling online.
Yep.
I've got Wisconsin. I'm going to say let's go 6 at home over UCLA, complete with Mick Cronin meltdown post game. And then
about
2
travel.
more, and then I got
I'm sure he's going to be real psyched about losing 2 games in the Midwest.
Yeah, he's going to talk about how many cows he's seen. We've seen spotted. What is that Wisconsin beer? Spotted cow.
Oh, spotted cow.
We've seen spotted cow 15 times this month.
If we weren't recording,
I'm going to have 15 on the plane.
If it wasn't 8:30 a.m. for me, Will, I'd go grab one out of the fridge and toast you with a spotted cow.
2 more, and then I got a jet. Florida. We're going to go by 11 in the Mike White Bowl. And then Houston, we'll say by 8 at home. Nothing really shocking there. Texas Tech keeps it close. It feels to me like a game where Texas Tech leads like 2 media timeouts in, and people in the Discord are like, oh, Houston, Houston doesn't have it this year. And then it's kind of like Houston holds exactly an 8-point lead from the 8-minute mark on. Like it's never more than 10 and it's never less than 4.
Just very consistent. Yeah, I like that. It's they were able to steal that game at Cincinnati over the weekend. It was ugly for most of it, but the wins count. And as that young team figures it out, we'll see if they're able to be up in the elite tier like they were last year. But all right, that wraps it up for us here at Stats by Will and Jim. Thank you, of course, to Will for his incredible insights as usual. Thank you to Trilly Donovan, our overlord here at Basket Under Review, to our sponsor, Home Field. Thanks to Corey Aldis, our editor behind the scenes, Sam Freyer for our graphics. Will, anything else for the people before we let them go? I know you've got a busy day ahead.
No, just enjoy the week, and we'll be back at it next Tuesday.
Amen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back, and we'll record on Tuesday, Wednesday morning in your earwaves. So we'll see you then. Until then, enjoy the hoops. Cheers.